Thanks everyone for coming. This is the game design panel. If you haven't been to one of these before, it is like a giant round table. And basically we're going to have mics set up on either side of the room where you guys can just come up and talk to us about whatever you think would be interesting to talk to us about. We will introduce ourselves. Beforehand, I want to say some of you might notice there is less of us than usual. Don't be alarmed. There are a couple of us who are in the IP roundtable at the moment talking about the storyline, so we're missing a couple because of that. Also, we have actually shrunk a little bit as a department this year, and we're currently hiring, so I would recommend anyone who's interested in game design check in with the HR folks and take a look at the positions we have there. So for introductions, I'm CCB Rise. I've recently worked on things like skill trading and command destroyers, and I'm on Team Size Matters, and we do kind of a range of stuff, and I'll let the other guys tell you who they are as well.
I'm CCB Larrikin, and I'm on Team 5.0, and I am currently working on the capital rebalance and work.
My name's CCB Fox4. I helped with the skin stuff a while ago, and these days I primarily spend my time doing, I'm a technical designer, so our APIs and some other stuff like that.
I'm CCB Fozzy, Team 5.0, and work on kind of all sorts of stuff, capitals and structures most recently.
So that's what you've got to work with, and you guys are kind of in charge of what we're going to talk about. So, you know, find your way down to the mics on either side and just let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll do our best to answer.
Special shout out to Celine and Gorski and Chesser and Setonia for sitting so far away that they can't come to a microphone.
Oh, don't worry, I
No, because it won't be on the stream.
You're not allowed to yell.
Let's start over there.
Sure.
Yes.
Do you have plans to adapt the new Citadel access control system to more things like mailing lists and chat channels so one can add people to all at once?
Yes, I think that would definitely be something we'd like to do. The use of them on Citadels is, I think, a really good starting point in testbed. We're going to be able to refine it a lot from that. It's also going to be by default in all of the new structures, so the new industrial arrays will have them, drilling platforms will have them, every structure we do after that's going to have them as well. And yeah, we definitely like to incorporate them into more things. I think they're a much better system for managing lists of players than the current role system for Corps, partially because they can exist outside of Corps and also partially because they just are kind of more customizable. And yeah, we definitely like to expand that. I think the next step is to get feedback from how they work out, because they're just hitting TQ for the first time next week. See what people like about them, what they don't like, fix up any UI issues, any usability issues, and then we can look at expanding them, yeah.
Thank you. Hey.
Hello.
When it comes to ship balancing redesigns and module balancing redesigns, to what extent does the input of what to do next come in? Is it a lot of CSM? Is it a lot of player feedback from places like the forums and Reddit? Is it personal projects? Is it from people higher up in the company? Like what ratio of input do you get for what needs to be done next, and what kind of decisions go into what needs to be done next?
I'll take answer D, all of the above. And it legitimately is that. So it's a mix of us getting feedback from the community, what we're passionate about, what we see in the metrics, feedback from pretty much every source you can possibly think about.
Yeah, we could probably all talk. I mean, it's a really good question. I think it's something we're also like working on all the time, trying to figure out a better way of establishing priority. And we actually, depending on which kind of project you look at, there was probably a different path, or at least some variation in why we ended up taking that work and kind of where it came from. So we have some things like the easiest example, I think, is the bowhead that came like very directly from the CSM as a request, and that sort of dictated the path that it took to being developed. On the other hand, you have things like Tech 3 destroyers, which are much more like come from a need the company has, or a request from sort of the development team, and then there's a mix of everything in between. And so it just depends on which thing you look at, and we're always trying to refine and figure out how to use the different inputs we have more effectively.
Yeah, it's also not unusual for especially new ship ideas to kind of sit in our minds for a little bit. The idea will come up often at a player meet or on the forums or anywhere, and kind of keep a mental list of, we could add this kind of ship and this kind of ship, and then when we get an opportunity, hey, we've got the slot here in December, we can add some new ships, we've got the art bandwidth, let's figure out what would be a good ship to add now. We can sort of pull in stuff from that. At the ship balance presentation next, we're going to talk a little bit about a concept, still pretty early concept of something that the idea came from a discussion with the CSM at one of the summits, and this ship idea itself wasn't suggested by them, but they brought up a concern, and we kind of rolled around, oh, what's the best way to solve that? What are some cool ways we could solve that? And it led to this idea that you'll be hearing about soon. So yeah, they kind of come from all over the place for sure.
Yeah, I got a question about drones. The current drone system is basically a buff to all stats of a ship. Currently drones buff like everything. You get more damage, you get more whatever you want. So currently the drones don't feel special. Everyone has them, everyone uses them. It's not like you're doing something unusual if you're focusing on drones over guns.
I mean, I would, drones are a big topic for sure, and there's probably a lot to try to look at there, but I would say that to me it seems more like something like capacitor. It's like a system or a resource that varies across all the ships, and so how much of or like the way you utilize it or the role it plays kind of varies across the spectrum of ships in the game. So rather than, I don't know, thinking of it as something that should be like unique to certain ships or should only be available for certain ships, it seems more like it's interesting as a system that all ships or most ships have access to, but the role it plays in that playstyle for that ship varies depending on which one you're looking at.
I had an idea regarding drones related to the squad mechanic for fighters. You introduced the fighter mechanic where you kind of handle several fighters as one, more or less. And in the early days of EVE, you had like 10 drones for drone boats, I believe.
Yep, there's been even more than that at some points, yeah.
I would love to see the, currently you have for capitals, for carriers, the high slot module that allows another fighter. I would love to see that scaled down to allow another drone per flight, like squads of drones.
Yep, that's definitely something we had in mind when we built the fighter system for carriers. It's something that, if you go back even years and years, like before I started here, the ideas of let's make some drone squadrons that'll be bound together and will act as one unit as far as the server is concerned to keep load to a minimum, but then allow you to have this like big swarm of drones, which feels really cool, and you can have a lot of good gameplay. That idea has been around a long time, and also the idea of making drones interactable a bit more like modules, which is something we've also done with the fighters. That has also been an idea that's bounced around for quite a few years. So it's great to actually get a kind of a first step out the door with the fighter system. And this is, I think, like the access control system, something where the idea is we put it out with the carriers, we refine it from there, because I'm sure there's going to be a ton of feedback. There already has been. We'll be iterating on it a lot. And then there's definitely going to be opportunities to use this system for drones in the future, I think, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. With Citadels being introduced, I'm sure we'll have many passes at them, but one of our key questions as they're being rolled out is, will some of them be unanchorable and redeployable? If so, what happens to the rigs inside of them? What about the modules? Currently on SysC, at the end of the 7-day cooldown, everything just kind of blows up.
Yeah, so the rigs will be lost if you pull it up and place somewhere else under the current system. But you can pull out the modules. At the moment, I think the only way to do that is to unfit the modules before it comes out. We had a original plan to allow you to more easily kind of scoop the whole thing whole and move it around. And that's something that's very possibly maybe able to do in the future, but it's not at least going to be in the first iteration.
But definitely we will be able to, at the lower tiers of the Citadels, unanchor them and redeploy them.
Yes, yeah. It takes some time to do it. It should feel a lot like it should be clear that this is a big structure that you're putting some investment in when you're deploying it. It's very vulnerable when you unanchor it as well. But yes, yeah, you can unanchor them and then move them somewhere else and redeploy them there. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Industry's gotten a lot of love in the past year and a half, especially rebalancing mining barges and zoomers. And just an idea that has always been in my mind, but something maybe to ask you guys. Offensive mining crystals. That when they cycle, steal minerals directly from your hull. And if your structure
really cool.
goes down to 0, you die.
Maybe you get salvage out of Mimitar ships.
I mean, obviously you wouldn't want people to like resalvage their own ships and make money off of it, so.
Yeah, I mean, that would be an obvious concern that we wouldn't be able to let a like armor repair give you infinite minerals. But yeah, like offensive mining crystals, I mean, I could see it. If anything, we'd want to be careful not to make the mining barges too overpowered for combat. The Procure and the Skiff are already kind of crazy. But we decided to go the route of using drones for that rather than the offensive mining crystals. Partly because it feels really nice to just be like wrecking everyone that's attacking you while you continue mining as if nothing's going wrong. But yeah, I mean, I think it would definitely be possible. But it's a question, I guess, whether it would be better to do it with drones or some other system.
Thank you.
Hi, some of the mechanics and playstyles that I use every day in EVE revolve around the mechanics of the server tick rate. And I feel like there's a lot of the game design revolves around this. Things like moving, cloaking, insta-locking. Is there any plans, or is this on your radar to lower the tick rate or improve the tick rate? Or is this something that you guys think about?
I mean, go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, we've done some research into it, and we've looked at the technical feasibility of it, and we've always sort of determined that with a certain amount of work, it would be possible. But before we've ever taken any other steps, we've always said that we need to look at the gameplay implications, because as you said, there's a lot of stuff that sort of revolves around that, especially for our players in Australia and that sort of area of the world. And it's just never really been high enough on our priority list to really bump that up the design schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing the guys that worked on Brain in the Box might be able to investigate, but of course they've been working on Brain in the Box until just quite recently. And yeah, there'd definitely be some big wins for just feeling of responsiveness. That I think would be one of our biggest motivations for wanting to increase the tick speed. Just when you take an action, especially if you're manually piloting, it's great. It's great if the game just responds really quickly to you. But yeah, there's load concerns, there's concerns with latency. So it's definitely on our, like, we'd love to do this if possible, but I don't know when we'd be able to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say in the 3 years I've been here, it's something that comes up, like the whole time. It seems to pop up consistently, so I know it's on people's minds, both from tech side and from design side, but yeah, I think it's not happening right now, at least.
It's in that kind of category with Brain in the Box and removing downtime of like these big technical projects we really like to do, and we got one of them done, so
well done.
Maybe the next one will be soon.
Thank you.
Hello. So I think we're all very excited about the capital ship changes next week, and we're all looking ahead very eagerly to that. But the one question I have is, have you all sort of considered the unintended consequences of capital ships with the legacy control tower system, and how the control towers seem to be now grossly underpowered compared to the highly effective capital ship modules, Tech 2 guns, that kind of thing. Carrier fighters being able to be deployed over long ranges, that kind of thing. It could defend control towers with almost no consequence. So just wonder what you had comments on that, and if you had any plans regarding that topic.
Yeah, look, it's something we've definitely considered, and the same thing can be said about deploying fighters at extreme long range to go and reinforce the citadel. It's one of the design sort of issues we had with that was you could in fact sit at one citadel, deploy your fighters, and go and attack another citadel that's like 1,000 kilometers away. But fighters aren't cheap, and the citadels and POSs both have weapons that can take out those fighters, and they generate kill mails like anything else. And yeah, so while you can defang the POS, it can defang your carrier.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
In the more general kind of balance, overall power level of star bases, yeah, they're definitely a bit underpowered compared to capitals after the change, but they're almost equally underpowered compared to capitals before the changes as well. So it's something, our medium-term plan for fixing that problem is to allow you to replace them with new structures.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So another question comes regarding the buyback program for pulses that was announced yesterday. What are plans regarding the faction towers?
So we don't actually know yet. We're working on it. That's the short answer. The long answer is we will be making sure we take all that into account. There's the faction towers. There's things like the faction labs. There's a lot of those that we're going to need to make sure we kind of properly compensate people for. We're not going to. It's not going to start right away. So we've got a bit of time to figure that out. At the moment, we've been pretty focused on getting Citadels out the door. But yes, we'll be in contact with you guys. Communicating about the plan as we go, getting feedback with the CSM as well, and we're not going to forget the faction stuff. Don't worry, it's definitely on our list of things we need to make sure we handle.
Thank you.
Hey guys.
Hey. Hi. Hello.
So
I was thinking, speaking of saying hi, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, it'd probably be cool actually. Where you're like, just name and who you fly with.
Yeah, I'm Nyden. I'm the editor-in-chief of Crossing Zebras, and I fly with GMVA.
There you go.
The party place. So off-grid links were mentioned yesterday again. It's been a while now, and I was wondering if there's anything more concrete on the removal of off-grid links.
Yeah, I mean, well, we were going to talk a bit about it at the presentation right after this, but I can give you the cliff notes now. So we're switching them to an AoE buff system that will affect all friendly ships or all ships in your fleet within a certain range of the ship when it's activated. It's not quite like an interdictor bubble, so if a ship leaves that range, they'll still be affected by the buff for the whole duration. It's applying the buff to everyone within range, and then that buff is sticky whether you leave or stay within range. It's also not going to be connected at all to your position in the fleet hierarchy. So that's something that I think a lot of people were concerned about. Cool. The idea that because you'd have to have these ships on field, they could get headshotted quite easily. But one of the things that's going to make that much less of an issue is that you'll be able to just bring as many boosting ships as you want. So in a lot of ways, headshotting your link ships will be like headshotting all your interdictors or all your logi. You can kind of counter just by bringing enough to keep them alive. And bringing more if you start losing them. So we're going to be talking a lot more about that, a bit more about that at least, in the presentation after this. But does that kind of...
And I would also just add there is a difference in concreteness because of Brain in the Box and other things, we have the technical tools to make this change that we talked about wanting to make for a long time. Now it's actually possible, and as a result of being possible, it's now actually on a roadmap. So it's basically there's a timeline that is not vague associated with it. It's actually going to have work done.
Actually, like one of the on the technical side, the system we'll be using for it is the same system that the supercarrier AoE debuff super weapons use starting next week.
We're talking a couple of months, maybe not a couple of years.
As soon as possible. We've got it on the roadmap for summer. Which of course there's a couple of months in that period, and we're going to do our best to hit that. But yes, we are pretty close at this point. The fact that we got a very similar system of debuffs of AoE debuffs for the supercarriers. That's the first time actually that Eve's ever had a persistent buff or debuff that one ship applies to another that continues to exist no matter what the situation of the grid changes. So if the ship that's applying it warps off, if you move out of range, it'll just continue to apply. That system behind the scenes was implemented both for the future links, but the first use of it's going to be the supercarrier super weapons. And it's great to have hit that milestone. I know this is something we've talked about a lot, and it's been a big long-term project.
All right, sweet, thanks.
Oh, you made it down.
I know, you kind of forced my hand. Hi, I'm Jesser. I fly for Wilderness. I don't know if this falls too much under ships and modules, so apologies. But I know that we discussed about server pull rate, but I noticed that during a lot of rebalancing of things, were you guys ever considering making module cycle time different? Like you have a lot of 10 seconds or 5 second, and I noticed that while we have different tiers for, fitting, for like cap usage, there's never been like a faster cycle time of a module where you can effectively use heat on and off faster than, like, for example, MWD's heat being 10 seconds in some fights. Being able to MWD heat on before your opponent can do it is a really big advantage. I'm just wondering if that's ever a conversation that you guys have for gameplay, because it affects like the Eve sports side very heavily, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that, if anything, actually, you're right, kind of been moving away from variety within a class of cycle time. We've been tending to unify them as we do the tier side. That's partially just out of an effort to reduce complexity. There are areas where we have been intentionally putting some more gameplay around cycle time in here and there, like the overheating of Dictor or Hictor bubble projectors, for instance. But yeah, I think there's definitely room to do more with that. If anything, I'd probably say we lean towards doing it with like more advanced meta variations, because they can sort of handle having more complexity. In the same, yeah. Is there any?
No, I mean it's a really interesting point. I mean, when we started doing the module tier side, we sat down and tried to figure out which which points of variation were interesting, and kind of tried to establish some things that we could really consistently play around with, like capacitor cost and whatever the other. There's quite a few things obviously that we tinker with, but that didn't make it on the list. But it's a good point that definitely provides a lot of variation in gameplay. And I mean, we obviously look at cycle time a lot when we're going to rebalance the groups. I mean, like target painters is a good example where I remember we made a big adjustment to cycle time to make the gameplay better. But yeah, we haven't kind of brought that out as a point of variation within groups. Maybe that's something, yeah, that we could look at with advanced variations at some point. It sounds, at least in certain groups, probably very interesting in terms of the trade-offs you would make. So that's a good point.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, me again. Yeah, I had another topic regarding drones. Currently, drones and fighters as well are kind of prefabbed. You can't fit them currently. What would you think about the effect of being able to take a blueprint for a fighter or drone, open it up, fit it with, for example, other blueprints, close it together, produce one copy of that entire fitting, and then being able to produce that copy as the final drone, fighter, whatever, instead of the current variation system within the drones?
Okay, so there's some technical challenges with doing it exactly the way you described. So if we wanted to allow you to essentially customize the blueprint of a drone to then create something special. We looked into this when we wanted to investigate adding kind of like more artisanal crafting to Eve, the ability to put your name on a crafted item, on an item that you built, and do it a little bit better, like, hey, my pulse lasers have a little bit extra range than that guy's pulse lasers. The problem there is that it's actually very incompatible with the way that we handle our inventory system to allow us to have all the items that you saw CSP show off yesterday. So doing it that way probably wouldn't be doable. You could potentially have something where you actually do fit, like a ship, modules onto the drones. The question there would be whether it would be worth the complexity. It might need to be something that would be more limited to like fighters rather than drones. With fighters, we already have a kind of an ability system that works like modules.
I think it would be kind of problematic from a balance point if you could fit the drone or fighter itself, because then you could adjust your current fighters on the fly. But if you adjust the fitting during construction, you're set. You can't change it around. Maybe not consider that a regular blueprint, but a new type of item instead, the resulting fitting loadout thingy.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge there is, again, because of the way our inventory system works, we would need to, like every possible variation would need to have its own market group and wouldn't be able to stack with any other variations and stuff like that. Wouldn't be able to join together in a squadron for fighters with other variations. So it's possible we could add more customization. Having more variations to fighters is kind of a way we can get a partial way towards that, and we definitely are planning on adding more of those over time.
Go over here.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Deirdre Fall. I organize Amsterdam. I'm seeking to understand the game design justification behind Dailies, because it sounds to me, the way it's been described, sounds like you've just created a really boring chore that I have to do once a day.
I mean, so this is obviously a big question. We've been trying to figure out how to tackle the gap left by taking away the skill queue limitations that used to exist. We knew when we were making the decision to remove that we were, or at least we were hoping that sort of a lot of the logins we were getting from the fact that you were obligated to this chore of coming in to update your skill queue were fairly empty, kind of meaningless logins that we weren't really benefiting as a player base or as a company from people logging in to do that chore. And we knew that it was a better user experience to not have it. We knew that, basically that you guys would be happy, we would be happy to not have to have something like that. We found out that we were more off about that than we expected, and that a lot of those logins and that activity was not empty and meaningless, that it actually did something really good for the game and keeping people connected. And that's been shown across a lot of games that this is a good way to keep people engaged with the game, even if there's obviously a lot of variation in the way you can implement that and the way that feels as a player. And basically, we've spent a lot of time since then trying to figure out how to replace that functionality without having a crappy feature or crappy experience.
Without re-adding the skill queue.
Basically, without re-adding the skill queue limitations, which would be not ideal.
Right, but you're replacing it with a chore where I have to
mark
to a belt, kill a rat, and then log off.
This is a very different user experience in the skill queue, though. And if people want to kill a rat and log off, they're welcome to, but the data shows that actually a lot of people kill a rat and then go on to do more stuff and get into fleets and fly around.
And also, we are basically trying to get more information. This particular implementation is largely about taking the fact that we've spent now, whatever it's been since, I think we made that change in Phoebe, the skill queue removal. So it's been, close to 2 years, a year and a half, something like that, where we've been talking basically the entire time about what to do with this, and it's gotten to a point where we actually just need more information. And so a big part of what we're doing now is doing something that is kind of a little crude, but gets us good information, and that way we can iterate and try to make the experience as good as possible. Unfortunately, to your, the idea of a chore, no matter what, if we create something that you want, that brings you into the game regularly to keep you engaged and to create activity, for us, at least for a section of people, it's going to feel like a chore because you're doing it because of something you want when you wouldn't have been logging in otherwise. And that's a tough spot, and that's something we're trying to figure out as well. I understand the feedback, and hopefully after we see what the results are from this implementation, we can make improvements and make it feel as little like a chore as possible. And if we find out that actually having this chore doesn't get us any meaningful results, that these logins are empty and that people are just not enjoying it, then we can obviously change it or remove it as well.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm Gentile and I fly for CV8, and these mics are really tall and I'm not. Yeah, I wanted to know what you guys' plans were with the command destroyers. I wanted to know what kind of impact you wanted it to have on the meta in an ideal world, and how you feel about the counterplay that's developed around it, because I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts there.
At the moment, we're mostly just happy and not making any big plans right now to make changes.
We've got some more to talk about with that in the presentation too next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're gonna talk about that a bit at least. I think there's probably going to be a time coming, probably within the next year, where we need to go and take a serious look at sort of where the meta has moved as a result, and if there's anything that we need to address. But right now, it seems like there's just been quite a bit of pretty interesting tactics and gameplay as a result, and the feedback in general that we've seen is very positive. And as far as I think we can see from our perspective, it's just going fine. Obviously we need to dig into that regularly, like we do with everything, and make sure there isn't any issues. But No immediate plans, at least, to make changes.
Okay,
do you think we should?
Oh, no, I was just genuinely interested to hear your thoughts. I'm not coming here to push an agenda for once.
I mean, I'm super excited. My favorite thing is videos of hilarious stuff happening with Jump Destroyer. It's like the best. I'm so happy every day if I come into work and there's a new video of someone doing something funny with Command Destroyers. It's like the best.
Yeah, not long after we introduced them, I went out on a roam with some other CC peers, and I won't give any details about the kill because then you guys will track our characters down.
Which happened last year. You guys are jerks.
But we got a really cool, fun kill that we wouldn't have otherwise because somebody made a really good boosh. It was a lot of fun, and that was what completely convinced me. It took away the last of my doubts. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about them a bit more in the ship module presentation as well.
Hi, Wapalooza from Triumvirate. ANI is recruiting. I got you. So with Citadels and like the idea of having Stargates added, I feel like these are all changes that give big alliances more control of the subspace they own. And so I was wondering, what's your kind of like final idea? What's your ideal scenario in terms of big alliances being able to control the sov that they own? Things like, I don't know, just like being able to change the security status of their own systems, or being able to have NPC forces hired to do this and that.
Yep.
What's your like?
In general, we like giving customization of space. Adding more is always good. Both of those two concepts, NPC, defense forces, and sex status have been ones that have come up a lot of times. Both of them obviously need to be careful with, but yeah, there's definitely more stuff we want to do there. The medium-term vision revolves a lot around customizing your space through infrastructure, through setting up these structures all over the place. Not just through like a single outpost per system, which is what you have now. You have a single outpost, you have a single iHub, you plug stuff into the iHub. But a lot of structures that you can kind of set up in any way you wish and use them for different tasks. And it's possible that you may, in that case, have kind of effective control over maybe even a smaller part of the solar system. Maybe even you share it with people. There's kind of a bit more blurriness there, which we really like. It's a bit less prescriptive. So that's definitely something we're working towards. With things like Stargates, there's a lot of really kind of long-term stuff that we'd like to do eventually. I can say probably the first set of Stargates we'll produce will be like a medium-sized Stargate that would really allow us to improve the gameplay that's currently served by jump bridges. And that is probably more medium term. It's not too far off. But we'll be talking, of course, more about that as we get closer to it.
Thank you.
Hey, Damascus Kadesh. I was the the Canid champion. Mm-hmm. Rest in peace, King Canid. And now I fly with a bunch of crazy French guys. I'm really happy to hear about the work that's being done on links. But the next question is, how far off is an ECM rebalance? And is that something that's like an ongoing thing that you guys maybe are thinking about ideas and...
Every time we hire a new designer, they come in with dreams of fixing ECM, and then their dreams get crushed. And so if anyone wants to fill one of those game design positions, we can crush your dreams too.
Honestly, it's probably something we talk about at the pub more than any other single comment is, what if you do this with ECM and we just don't have any current plans? I'm sorry.
It was really a dream of mine that has been wrecked by EVE Online, but we would really like to improve it. We talk about it a lot. It's the thing I think that I keep most eye out for player suggestions about. There's been lots of proposals, lots of good parts to many of them, but none of it so far has come together strongly enough for us to make a change. I hope that we can at some point. It's a tough system, and it's doing something now that we can't just get rid of. It's not something like off-grid links where we feel like it's just kind of weak and terrible. It's something we'd like to improve, but it's hard to figure out how to do. And if you have some genius plan for an ECM rework, please pass it along.
I was just going to say, what I'm hearing is we should corner you in the pub tonight and give you our ideas.
I wouldn't do that because I won't remember the plan. I
should totally do that.
Okay, before that, okay.
But I'll tell you it's good, no matter what.
All right, I'm Amerfest with Executive Outcomes. I have two questions. One, the upcoming local invulnerability field for the fleet, what penalties is that going to have?
The penalties are you can't leave or move or fight with those ships. So it'll apply to industrial ships in your fleet within a short range. It'll lock them in place. We'll probably actually let them keep mining. But you won't be able to use it with your procurers and skiffs to make an unstoppable combat fleet, because otherwise you just like jump in a Rorqual with a bunch of skiffs and wreck all the Macario fleets in the world. But the idea behind it is it's an oh shit button. It's a solution to the problem that's always plagued defense fleets for mining. If you have some people who are flying PvP ships, people who are flying mining ships, the PvP ships can't really just kind of hang around beside the mining ships all the time. It gets really boring. So instead, we want to allow you to put a pause on an attack and say, all right, nobody's dying right now at this moment. We're going to wait and bring some friends in, and then we'll have a brawl and have some fun.
Okay, and second, last year we were showed an absolutely gorgeous new model for the Chimera. Are we going to see it anytime soon in the game?
That's a good question for the art panel. I don't know what the schedule is for that. In general, with art stuff that's shown at Fanfest, we make a lot of concepts and then kind of pick and choose which ones are going to go through to production. And so there's a lot of ships that are getting renovated all the time, but as you guys probably remember from like the Dominics, sometimes it takes a long time from when we first show a model to a concept to it actually hitting the game. And that's kind of normal for their process. So I don't know exactly when. We kind of completely changed what the ship is used for since they made that design. So they might want to change it again because like most of it is revolving around triage and shield projectors. But we'll see. It's up to them. It is really cool though. I do love it.
Yeah, just check in with the art guys either at the panel or if you see them around.
Will do. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to give you a shock. I play Eve with sound.
Very nice.
Yeah. But where all the notification sounds from Aura gone? For example, your cargo hold is full and things like that. They just disappeared over the years.
I don't know. That's strange.
Because there's less and less. Every update there's one more sound missing. And there's almost none of them yet left.
I mean, I don't know, is Clang doing any?
I'm not sure.
I mean, the sound team would be the people to ask, and actually,
they're around.
Since you say it, I will ask as well. That sounds odd, so I will definitely check in about that. But if you see them, anyone from Clang is the team name that does sound, and they should be around. I don't know if they're doing a panel, but they would know better than us.
They work really closely with the art team, so they might be some of them might be at the art panel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
Yeah, we'll try because there is actually. It was actually good to have those sound notifications.
We'll pass it along. It's surprising because we've talked with them regularly about improving audio feedback, trying to make it so that you can get more information from playing with sound on rather than less. So it surprises me to hear that, but we will check in about it.
Yeah, the two of those I actually really miss is your cargo hold is full and your capacitor is empty.
Yeah, those are super useful.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll make a note of that. Thanks.
Hey guys, so Bakala from Evolution, we're in NC Dot. The follow-up questions that I had about Citadels, and please bear with me. The guys are asking about specifically which tier of Citadel you'd be able to move supercap production into. So is it larges, extra larges, between supercaps and Titans, will there be a difference in the size of Citadel that allows builds?
So supercap production is not going to be, our current plan is that it won't be in Citadels, it'll be in the industrial race and the XL industrial race. That's going to be part of their core function, is that they will replace the capital ship assembly race, or the super capital ship assembly race. So you're looking for the XL industrial array for that one.
And in terms of overall timeline, that will come next year, soon?
Fall of 2016.
Okay. And thank you for mentioning the capital assembly arrays. The specific question has to do with right now looking at the efficiency of things that you can get with towers in stations in your own sovereignty, as well as some things in low-sec. For example, the Thucker-Mix capital assembly array in low-sec gives you a fantastic ME, which you can't necessarily get in 0.0. Is there a similar plan for these industrial arrays, or will this also get a rebalance?
Yep, so the system we have in place to give those kind of bonuses for the new structures is that rigs for new structures have different bonus multipliers depending on where you have the Citadel anchored. So we'll be able to tune for different tasks, give you a rig that gives a different bonus in high sec, different bonus in low sec, different bonus in null sec. As for exactly which bonuses they'll get, we'll still have to work that out. In general, null sec will be giving you the best stuff, but we do want to make sure that there's some kind of strong niches where low sec can kind of get the best too.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Eli Grange with Dreadit. We are in fact recruiting. So the capital rebalance is coming up. What are you guys looking to rebalance next? Have you got a concrete plan, or is there like you're all now going to go to the pub and argue saying, oh, I want to do this?
So the next, we're going to again talk a little bit about this at the ship balance presentation next, but the list we have, it's not like a hard, we're going to do this for sure next and that, except Tech 3 destroyers are extremely high on the list, to do another pass on them. Tech 3 cruisers as well, and that pass is likely going to be in conjunction with an art rework of them. Our art team's investigating what they want to do with them there, so we're going to try to coordinate and get those out at the same time, because for Tech 3 cruisers, the visuals and the gameplay are actually very closely linked, obviously. Assault frigates are another big priority. We want to do tier aside on weapons. We've done it on the light missiles, but I do it on some more weapons. Anything else, guys?
I mean, the other big things are links.
Oh yes, links, and the Rorqual that we talked about.
Yeah. Like basically, there's a lot of the sort of balance energy will be going into those projects in the short to medium term, and then then all the other things he listed will be either happening on top of or after that work.
And there's also the the early ship concept that we'll be asking for your guys' feedback on after the ship balance presentation next.
And there's also the new capitals, which will be taking up some of that energy as well. So lots of stuff coming.
Cool, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Before we go to the next question, we only have about 5 minutes left before we have to call this quits, so we have like 2 or 3 questions at most.
Hi, Celia, playing with the Tuskers. I just wanted to ask about assault frigates, but apparently they're okay. Just another quick question about the dailies. If it works well, are you planning to have different dailies, like maybe randomized, like other than just shooting around?
Yeah, the most obvious. So there's different versions of where we can go. Certainly, the sort of simplest and easiest step to take next is add some variation to what things you can do to earn daily rewards. There's actually, we have also built up designs for basically shifting the whole system to something that has a lot more variation, basically has a lot of choices and a lot of, basically a lot more complexity. And we'll have to feel out what seems most appropriate after we see how it goes. But yes, I would say almost without a doubt there will be additions to the system, both in terms of the activity and the reward following release.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's probably safe to say that if we add more things you can do for the dailies, it would probably be as a, you can do any of these things whichever you want, rather than a, you get a random one every day. Because the goal is largely, you would do it while, like, whatever you would do normally in EVE, you just kind of get this for free. Right?
Yeah, most likely. And yeah. I mean, we've also, quite a while back we were talking about trying to build up a system around opportunities that would have on top potentially some like very kind of unpredictable things you can do. I guess more like a mission system that sort of generates tasks that vary quite a bit, and those would be randomized and you wouldn't have choice about them. But yeah, there's a lot of options. I think it's likely to say that the first thing we would want is that whatever your normal gameplay is, you can earn the rewards doing that rather than having to step out of it. And that's something that's very likely, I think, to come quickly after this release.
Okay. And in a lot of games, there's also a system of consecutive rewards, like you do the same thing in a row every day, and the more you do it, the more rewards you get. Is it something you're planning as well, or?
Not right now. That's something that we need to look into a bit more, but from what I understand from results from other games, that can actually be pretty harmful to engagement with the system, basically, and engagement with the game. It's really nice up until you don't meet the consecutive day requirement, and then it actually pushes you away from the game because you feel bad. So we'll see. We're definitely exploring a lot of this stuff, and we'll be adding and improving going forward for sure.
Okay. And how soon for the assault frigates?
Don't have anything I can announce yet. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm from Server Serenity and Alliance RAC. I saw the video yesterday, and I want to know what's your plan to actually make that connection.
All right, that's...
Oh, thanks, Omar.
At this point, basically what we have is dreams. Yeah. And the main blocker is the legalities. I'm not an expert in them, obviously, but I know that's what held us back from just expanding TQ to China originally, and that's what holds us back here. Serenity, I'm sure as you know, is run by a third-party company. It's not actually run by CCP, and that's due to the laws in place in China. We essentially license the game and the engine to them and send them our patches and get feedback from them and stuff like that.
Hilmar was sharing, yes, a dream, something that's like in his heart to have happen, and we absolutely share that. I think we would jump the first time that there was an opportunity for us to make that connection. We would be immediately trying to figure out the best way to do it. But we're kind of waiting for legal opportunity.
So will there be a World Clyde 2 maybe next year?
I mean, I would love that. I don't know for sure. I don't think we've started planning what we would do for the kind of entertainment event next Fanfest. But it was really great last time. I'd love to see us do it again.
And
thank you.
Yep, we have time for one more, so this will be the last one. Sorry, guys.
All right. My name's Random Interrupt from Spaceship Samurai. Excuse me, I have a cold as well. We were trying to figure out the range on the new boost system. Trying to figure out sort of what kind of range you have to maintain to keep those boosts active, and sort of how the gameplay is going to look for that in terms of like countering the boosts in the enemy fleet and that kind of thing.
So it's definitely going to vary from ship to ship, range bonus and such. So you'll get a much larger range, for instance, on a command ship than you would on a battle cruiser, which you get a larger range than a command destroyer. So we'll be balancing around that, trying to create a couple of different niches of gameplay where command destroyers maybe feel a bit more like a dictator that's trying to bubble your own fleet, but bubble them with awesomeness instead of with warp disrupt bubbles, and then like duck away before you die, to a command ship that's more likely to be kind of in the main core of your fleet, doing damage and also boosting. So that's definitely going to be very variable. I would expect that they'll be pretty significant. I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if you can, with the right implants and the right ship, like a command ship, maybe even get it out to like a 100-kilometer radius, like a really big one for those. But then for some, like the command destroyers, we'd probably be looking at more like a 10-kilometer radius. But it'll vary a lot.
So it's still going to be on grid though. So if your a fleet gets split off, those.
Yes, yeah. If you split up a fleet, then you can definitely get them away from their links.
And is that going to drop pretty quick, or do you have kind of some time to reassemble your fleet a little bit?
Yeah, so like I said before, what it'll actually be doing is applying a buff to everyone every X amount of time. So every time the module cycles, it'll apply a buff to everyone it hits, and they'll keep that buff for the whole duration. Okay. So if you get really lucky and separate them off right as it's about to wear off and they would be reapplying it, then, or if you have a spy or something and can figure that out, then you'd be able to get rid of their links right away. Otherwise, you'd have to wait a little bit.
So it's all about the cycle time on that boosting module. Then.
Yeah. Basically, the module, every time it cycles, would apply a buff for X duration. And that duration will probably be a bit longer than the cycle time.
Think of it like a friendly smart bomb, except instead of hurting everyone, you're helping them all.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming T3s are going to be kind of in there as well.
Yes.
Are they probably on par with the command ships or a little lower?
We'd want them to be different than the command ships. And exactly how that would work out, I'm not positive. They'd probably have lower range than the command ships, but we'll be kind of figuring out some of those details as we go forward.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so that's going to do it for this. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions. We have round tables, and of course, if you see us around, feel free to pull us aside and ask whatever you like. And thanks a lot for coming, and have a fun Fanfest.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.